Yeah, bro, if you were to tell me I'd be filming a video like this, like even 3 months ago, 2 months ago, I would have been like, yeah, right. Because I was not content in my season of singleness. I hated being single. And this video, I'm going to just kind of talk about why you may hate being single if you are single, why you have a hard time with it. And I'm ultimately just gonna kind of be going through the stages I've gone through in my season of singleness, because there's been the stage of like, I hate being single. I really want to be married right now to my godly wife. Then there's been like like I want that, but at the same time I don't want that because my trust, I wouldn't have any trust for her or anything. Obviously healing needed to be done. And then I'm at the point now where I'm like, man, like I love being single. Like I can actually say that like without like lying. Like I always used to say that. But then at heart I'd be like, but like, I don't really want to be single. I don't want to be laid up in bed by myself. But I finally am at that point where I'm totally content with just it being me and God. And of course, like, shoot, if my godly wife were to come out the woodworks, like why not? I'm not gonna decline a blessing from God. But it's like I'm finally at a point where I am content being single. So I just want to kind of talk about everything. Now let's talk about the beginning stages, right? The beginning stages of what singleness may look like, why it may be trash, right? Why you may just not really want to be single at all, right? Why you're probably just yearning for your godly spouse right now. And for me, it was a lot of things, right? Healing needed to be done. Um, I I've struggled with beating myself up in mentally, being really harsh to myself in my head, and also letting the devil do that to me as well, and just completely falling to the lies that he has said about me, and just falling into that trap. So when you're with somebody, right, when you have a spouse, like whether they're godly or not, when you have someone there, ultimately, like, it's a distraction, especially if that's what you're like. Obviously you don't have the mindset of getting into a relationship being like, oh yeah, like this is going to distract me from my pain, and this is going to distract me from the thoughts of myself. But you start to like convince yourself of like, oh yeah, this is just finally, like, it's my time to be with somebody. But like deep down, the real reason why you want somebody and why you're so like happy when you originally get with somebody is because you don't like being alone, because you have a hard time with yourself, dealing with the thoughts that you have about yourself. And being alone is hard, especially when you don't have friendly thoughts about yourself. So that's what it was for me. And I was always begging for a partner. Like, I like literally probably, I mean, realistically, my whole life. Like, I've kind of been like this ever since I was like 13, 14, 15, like starting high school. I was like, man, like I want to have a high school romance. I just want to get with one person and just stay with one person forever. Like, not have to go through heartbreak with a whole bunch of different people, not bounce around, like just be with one person. That's it. And definitely the one person I didn't want to be with was myself. Um, and that's all just pain. That's there, right? So going through that, it took a lot. But it's like that's the hardest stage. It's like when you're first, it's not even, I don't even want to say like learning to be by yourself, because you're really not learning to be by yourself. You're learning to be with God. You're learning to build a true foundation with God, right? A foundation built on rock. Not just a foundation where you know of God, you know that, if stuff hits the fan, that He's there for you, but ultimately He's not the number one person you're seeking, right? You're more so seeking doing your will over His own. And that's not a good place to be in, and let me say this, is like, that's okay if you are in that place. I was in that place. But it's better, hear me out on this, it's better to acknowledge if you are in that place. Like, it is better to acknowledge it and bring it to God and be completely honest, instead of lying, because you can't lie to God. So when you're lying, all you're lying to is yourself. And from that point, you're hurting yourself. Like, think about it. God knows every thought that you have. God knows everything in your heart. God knows everything about you, everything that you've been through, everything that you are going to go through. Like, God knows everything about you. So there's no point in lying. If he's really not a top priority in your life right now, if he's not the first person you think of when you wake up, if he's not like the first, if he's not the main person you are trying to please, or if he's not the only person that you're trying to please, like, he knows that. So you might as well just be honest with him. If you're struggling with being alone, you don't like you. It's impossible to lie to him, being like, "Oh God, like it's just me and you. Like, man, this is awesome." But then deep down, you're like, "Man, this sucks. Like, I just want my wife already, or I just want my husband already. Like, what the heck?" So there's no point in lying to God. If I can just be honest with you, you're gonna save yourself a lot of heartache and a lot of wasted time by lying to yourself. Okay, because you're not lying to God. I wasted a whole bunch of time lying to myself, and it stinks. So vulnerability is the best in any relationship. To have intimacy, you need honesty and you need vulnerability, and that's what it is with God. I feel like that's like the first stage of like singleness, and then at least for me, there came a stage where I was like, okay, like I'm cool with whatever. I'm cool with being single for a while, or I'm cool with stumbling across my godly wife. But low key, I do prefer being single because no matter how godly the girl is, well, I'm not going to be able to trust her. Right? Like, no matter how godly she is, like, I'm not ready to put my trust in somebody. Like, I'd rather just have my trust in God, give my time to God. But giving my time to a girl who, nah, like, I'm good. And like I said, speaking from that, that's a pain standpoint, right? That's coming from a place of hurt when you have that mindset, and when I had that mindset, and like I said, it's having those tough and vulnerable conversations with God, and then all of a sudden He's able to bring me the revelation, and He's like, "Hey, Brock, like, look, there's a reason why you don't trust, or you're not gonna trust a person if you get close to them. There's a reason why you're not putting your walls down for people." And then God's able to reveal to me that, it stems from, of course, a lack of self-love, but because of my past and people abandoning me and not being there in moments where I needed them, God's able to show me of like, all right, I have that scar and that pain from people leaving me in my past. And then all of a sudden it's at a place where I'm like, yeah, I'm content being single, but the only reason why I'm content being single and I'm preferring being single is because I'm too scared to get hurt again. All right, so I feel like that's like the middle, like the middle. You're getting closer to where you need to be with God, but it's like there's still healing that needs to be done in that, and that was the stage that I was in. I feel like for like the longest, it was like, man, like, I don't mind if I'm single or if I get with a godly girl, but it's like, like, ooh, I don't really know if I could trust a godly girl. You know what I'm saying? So there's that stage, and finally, I'm in a stage right now. I'm in a healthy place to where I'm just content in my season of singleness. And I want to say this to you as well, as if you are single and if you feel yourself in that season of singleness where healing is happening, where all of these things are happening, intimacy with the Lord is being built, is taking place, it is such a blessing that God has you here, right now. Because check me out. If you were to end, if you were to be with somebody, if you were to get with somebody when you are not ready, what's going to happen, and what has happened to me, is they're going to become your God. They're going to become your idol. And you're never going to admit that, right? You're going to be like, "Oh no, like, nah, I'm going to hold it down. Like, me and the Lord, like, that's my number one right there." But trust me, because of the hurt that you may not have been healed from, because of, that abandonment that's there all of a sudden, because of the abandonment that hasn't been healed in you yet, or, just the healing of loss that needs to be done, all of a sudden you're going to get with somebody, you're going to start to build a relationship with them, you're going to start to care for them, and then you're not going to want them to leave your sight, or you're going to have a lot of trust issues because of healing that needs to be done. So, regardless, whatever healing that needs to be done for you, I just want to tell you that, once again, if you're in a season of singleness, that is a great place to be, and it is such a blessing. And I, you know me, I have to bring up scripture with everything, and I highly encourage you guys to go read 1 Corinthians 7 on your own. But I just have a few verses to bring up, and just starting in 1 Corinthians 7 verse 8, and this is Paul writing, by the way. And Paul is saying, "But I say to the unmarried and to the widows, it is good for them if they remain, even as I am." And Paul, meaning by even as I am, is because Paul was single, right? Paul was devoted his life to God. So Paul is saying singleness is better if you are unmarried. And you're probably asking, like, well, why? Like, what's the point in that? And you read later in 1 Corinthians 7, verses 32 through 35. "But I want you to be without care. He who is unmarried cares for the things of the Lord, how he may please the Lord. But he who is married cares about the things of the world, how he may please his wife." There is a difference between a wife and a virgin. The unmarried woman cares about the things of the Lord, that she may be holy both in body and in spirit. But she who is married cares about the things of the world, how she may please her husband. And this I say for your own profit, not that I may put a leash on you, but for what is proper, and that you may serve the Lord without distraction. That I can fully attest to that, is when you have another partner there, you're worried about pleasing them, right? You're worried about like being a good counterpart to them, right? You're worried about serving them, and you're worried about hanging out with them, all of these things. When you're single, your only focus is on God. Your only focus is on how you're the only person you're worrying about pleasing is God. The only person you're worried about doing their will, and just you just have tunnel vision on God and the things that he leads you to, the things that he leads you to. If he leads you to another state, if he leads you to another job, another city, whatever it is, you don't have like a partner there to worry about, or to like to go like consult with them, like, hey, God's having me do this, or God's having us do this, and I can fully attest to that. And God just gave me a huge revelation on this the other night, because I didn't really think I was at the stage yet. Like, I still thought I was at the stage where I was, like, I was cool with whatever, but I was still had a little bit of hurt in me, to like be with anyone and trust anyone. And I don't know if like I'm fully healed yet and fully ready for a relationship. Like, I really don't know. Um, Regardless, it's not my worry, it's God's worry, and I trust his plan. But God gave me a revelation a couple nights ago. I was just laid up in bed, and I'm there because we just had our church conference this last weekend, and I kid you not, like every weekend or every night since this church conference, it has just been so easy to get into God's presence. And that's another video I'm gonna make pretty soon on like how to get in God's presence, and just the ways, the scripture that backs it up, like ultimately it being like a mindset thing, because it's not like certain like environments have to do with it. Like, it's not like, because I'm not at church right now, like I can't, have the spirit of the Lord fall upon me, like even right now, like I feel God's presence. It's not like I only feel God's presence in the altar at church, with other people feeling God's presence, but then all of a sudden when I'm in my prayer closet, or when I'm at my desk reading my Bible, all of a sudden God don't give me his presence because, I'm not in the church. It's like not that at all. But regardless, back to what I was saying, I was in his presence a couple of nights ago, and I'm praying to him. I'm just conversating with him. I'm bawling my eyes out. His presence is just so peaceful. And then all of a sudden, I got to thinking. I was like, you know what? I need to really not only take advantage of me being single, but it's like I really need to cherish moments like this, especially when it's late at night by myself in my room in the presence of the Lord, because it's like I'm not gonna be able to have nights like that with my wife. Like, I mean, I've never been married, but when you're married, bedtime, it's you and your wife. Or, if you're a girl watching this, it's you and your husband, right? You sleep together. There's nothing better than falling asleep in the Lord's presence. Like, I'm sure you can have like that moment with your wife, and you and her can have that moment with God or whatnot. But there is nothing than just being intimate, being alone with the Lord. And of course, like when I'm married, like I'm gonna have my own prayer closet, like she's gonna have her own prayer closet, like we're gonna have our own intimate time with the Lord. It's not like we're gonna be glued together for life. But what I'm saying is like it's like I like the verses I was reading. It's like your only focus right now is on the Lord. Like you wake up and you're like, Lord, what do you want me to do today? You know, financially, you're like, God, like, where do you want me to steward my finances? But then it's like when you have a wife, it's like, all right, Lord, like, you know, I got to steward this to, me and my wife's house or whatnot, yada, yada. Lord, where do you want me to steward the rest of this? Or Lord, I got to give this time to my wife, because I got to, date night, whatnot. I got to spend time with her, of course. Lord, where can I steward the rest of my time? But it's like when you're single, it's like, heck nah. It's like, Lord, I ain't got nothing going on. Like I got, my job, I got filming, or if, you got your job at this place or whatnot. But then it's like outside of that, it's like, Lord, like what you want me to do? Lord, like what you got for me? Lord, like where you want me at? And that's just such a blessing. And so, like I said, if you're in that season of singleness, well, the reason why it may be trash is because there's healing that needs to be done. And ultimately, and I'm gonna say this too, is you don't know God in the way that He wants you to know Him. I'm not saying you don't know God. Hold on now, before you start pulling out the bow and arrows and shooting them at me. I'm not saying you don't know God. I'm not saying that at all. But if you are in a position in your life where you are single and you're just not content, or your heart is just like yearning, like aggressively for like a significant other, is you may know God, but you might not know God in the intimate way that He wants you to know Him. And that'd be my encouragement, is to spend that alone time with Him. After this video is like, take some time into prayer, like instantly go into prayer and be like, Lord, like, if you do have those feelings, and just be straight up with Him. If this is your first time being honest with Him about this, just be honest with Him. Like I said, He already knows it. But there's going to be a blessing, and there is going to be work done in your honesty for God, right? Like He knows your heart, but it's completely different when you're bringing it to Him in prayer. So I'll just encourage you just to be honest, because He already knows. Stop lying to yourself. Don't do what I did. Don't make the mistakes that I did. Don't go jumping into a relationship with people when you're not ready, and putting up with stuff you don't deserve because you don't know how to treat yourself right, and you don't think of yourself in a way, and you don't value yourself how God values you. So then all of a sudden you're putting up with stuff in a relationship that you like absolutely don't deserve, and that God does not want for His son, that God does not want for His daughter. So yeah, if you're in a season of singleness, it's a blessing. Let God prepare you for your future spouse. I'm telling you, it's gonna be dope. It's going to be testimony, because people are going to look at you and be like, what the heck? Like, I never thought you were going to get married. Like, you're telling me you're getting married? Like, whoa, like, hold on. It's just going to be awesome. So I just encourage you to spend that time with God, and get that healing done. Like I said, it's boo-boo. It don't feel good. Being put in the refiner, it burns, but allow God to burn and purify you from the impurities inside your heart. But yeah, I'll let you get to it. Spend that time with God. Spend time in His Word. These videos I make are great. I love them. But do not have it be your number one source of God and your communication with Him. Your number one communication with Him should be in prayer and in the Bible. But yeah.